Let me begin with a little proverb here. A proverb comes, it says, "A fool despises his father's instruction, but he who heeds admonition is prudent." Which means the father knows what he's doing, and it's a fool who doesn't listen to his father. Now, I'd like to talk to the fathers. Are you a good father? Would the kid be right in following you? Are you giving good example? Every time we speak to mothers and to fathers, we pat them on the back a little bit, but we also sort of encourage them to become either better or continue to be as good as they are. And I'd like to just have you with me go back and think about your father. Now that means you ladies can do so too. Think about your father. The farther away I get from my dear dad, the more I love him. There is something that God gives even to a man who had a fourth grade education that only God could give him. And when he speaks to a kid who's had 44 years of education, he is still smarter than I. And that's because it isn't his intelligence, it's God who uses the authority of a father to speak to his son. Think about all the things that your dad may have told you, things that I can admire in my father right from the beginning. My dad, I didn't know until my dad died of a heart attack that my dad had had 12 heart attacks. But never did he give up. And we always thought he was just sort of a complainer. But he had 12 heart attacks. And finally, the last one took him without griping. My dad, hard of hearing, he would go on the streetcar and the bus to work. He couldn't drive. But he would go and he'd walk the downtown area to get one pair of shoes and another pair of shoes for one person who needed that pair because Dad promised he would take care of his customers. Oh, and the biggest thing that my dad has done for me, I honestly think, other than the fact, and that's probably the biggest, is namely his goodness to others, how he cared for people. Oh, how he gave things away, how he said, forget it, put it on the cuff, how he loved to help others. The big thing that Dad gave me, other than that, which is number one, is a work ethic. Everybody says this within the Jesuits, and I don't take the credit for it, that I work so hard. That's because my dad showed me. He was working from 9 in the morning until 11 at night every day. And my sweet mom would prepare a dinner for him at 11 o'clock when he'd come home at night. And she'd sit with Dad, falling asleep because she was tired. She got up at 5 or so. But you see, those are things that you remember now. You didn't have to see them hug. You knew that they loved each other. And when you think now about Father on Father's Day, oh, people, those of you whose dad is gone, please tell God that you love him, that you want God to take good care of him, and tell your dad in heaven that, Dad, I appreciate all you've done for me. Now, those of us who are here, and I'm a father, everybody calls me Father. If they have respect. If they don't, they call me Gene. Hi. You and I think, should give a little thought to what a father should be. First of all, a father is a man. Therefore, more than just immediate care for others, he has to be what God thinks he is. How about that as point number one? Are you what God expects you to be as a man? Number two, are you what your wife expects you to be as a husband? Even if your wife is in heaven, is she proud of you for being the man that she married and she loves? Number three, how are you in the eyes of the children? Do they admire their father? And maybe the farther away they are, the more they'll admire because they start, they become so wise. You've heard all of that stuff about how smart my dad got within 3 years, from my age 16 to 19. Well, it's just that you got smart. Dad was always smart. You know that. But how about the kids? Are you, if you have little ones, I used to give a lot of little gimmicks on retreats to parents. And the one that I liked a lot is I used to give men the 4 F's. I said, if you want to handle youngsters, if you can handle these 4, you'll be a good father. Are you frank, firm, fair, and fond? Now you can flip them. I think I started with fair, firm, frank, and fond in that order. Fair, treating all the kids alike. Firm, you make house rules, they obey them, and you agree to them, you stick with it. That's the only way we live in society, keeping the laws, God's laws, civil laws. Frank, speak straight out, don't hide, let the kids know. Oftentimes it's something like, Dad, I'd like to go to this school, and you come up with, I'm sorry, we don't have enough money. If you want to earn 1/3 of it this summertime, I'll be able to send you. Just don't show off. Just show that you are frank about it all. And fond. Love your kids. And love every kid, not just the athlete, not just the grade A student. You love them all. Now, how do you show that? Well, you show that by being where the kids are. Take time out to go. Husband and wife. Oh, how many times. Just now starting at Marquette High where I live, and it's my alma mater, and I've lived there for 30 years, we're starting ice hockey. And I'm an old hockey nut. I've played hockey galore, and I love the game, and I know the game well, and I watch the game. And now the guys are coming around and asking me, please, you're going to come to see the game. Would you like to be a coach? And I say to myself, isn't that nice? And the encouragement, as I spoke last week, the encouragement you give when you're present there. Mom and Dad are watching. I played my greatest football game when my mom came to one game. That's all she could afford to come in terms of time. The toughest game I ever played was when my mom was there. I didn't care how many other girlfriends were there, but Mom was my number one. I played my heart out. Got knocked out, too, in that game. I remember so well. So Mother said, every time I see you play, you get knocked out. She saw me once. Now, that's a father. Now, what is a father to others? You are more than just your immediates. How are you taken care of as that father of the kids in the neighborhood? Do they admire Mr. So-and-so? Are you living in such a way that those kids could know your interior life and they'd be proud of you? Oh, but the biggest thing I think of all is that you thank God that you are able to be a father. Now, I know we have some in an audience who have not been so. We have bachelors who will never marry. But I dare say that the example that you can give to men who admire another man, to boys who see you coming up, or that relationship of father and daughter, when you go out with your daughter and dance with the daughter on the father-daughter's nights or so forth, what a beautiful thing. I want a guy just like the guy that dear old Mom married. You see, that's beautiful. So as you look upon yourself, I would like, for those of you who are still young enough and have little kids, I'd like to read that poem that seems that so many people are writing for. And I never know what's especially good. But if it hits somebody, it does. Oh, I've gotten requests, hundreds and hundreds for this, which I used maybe about a year or so ago. It's a little thing entitled, The Little Chap Who Follows Me. Author is anonymous. That author writes a lot. Anonymous writes a lot of stuff. A careful man I ought to be. a little fellow follows me. I do not dare to go astray for fear he'll go the self-same way. I must not madly step aside where pleasure's paths are smooth and wide, and join in wine's red revelry. A little fellow follows me. I cannot once escape his eyes. Oh, I love that. You know, when a kid looks at his daddy and, well, you remember those commercials. I like those commercials where the kid imitates his dad in everything he does, including the time when dad strikes up a cigarette and the little kid wants to smoke. Wrong, see. I cannot once escape his eyes. Whatever he sees me do, he tries. Like me, he says he's going to be the little chap who follows me. He thinks that I am good and fine, believes in every word of mine. The base in me, he must not see, the little chap who follows me. I must remember as I go through the summer sun and winter snow, I'm building for the years to be. A little fellow follows me. Now, I guess maybe you'd be surprised, but I dare say that your little fellow could be 30, 35. He wants to be like his dad. I'm 65. I want to be like my dad. So people, on this day, let's give a pat on the back to the man in your life, husband, wife, and to a man who has worked very hard, I'm sure, because that seems to be in a male's ethic, work. And thank God that you have got somebody who has been a protector, a guide. And pray to St. Joseph on a day like today, because St. Joseph was the foster father who cared for Jesus and his lovely wife, Mary. And I'm going to pray for all fathers. May this Father's Day really give you a spirit of understanding and love and make you feel important. Remember, nobody's more important than doing the will of God. I pray for you. Pray for me. Happy Father's Day, and don't forget the poor. God bless you.